Pittsburgh. Thank you. And another moment of silence for Trey Breckenridge. Now, I will open the meeting and we will have the land show.
Good morning, everyone. Board members, Superintendent, Mr. Phillips, Mata family, Filipino community, and all other Stockton community members. We are from the Native American Center. We are located at Edison's campus. My name is Gina Lopez. I am Choctaw American Indian. This is Sabrina Flores. She is Apache Indian. And this is Destiny Rivas. She is Cahuilla Indian. This is a very special day for our district as we celebrate the opening of Principal Henry Phillips' new school in honor of Stockton Filipino legend Flora Mata. Thank you for allowing us to be a part of this day. I am a Stockton native, a product of Stockton Unified. I have served the district for 20 years, so it's such an honor to be here on this opening ceremony. We want to first honor our ancestors. We want to honor the Miwok, the Yokuk Indians, and all other tribal communities who first inhabited this land here in Stockton, California. From the beginning of time, this was and still is sacred indigenous land. We honor Mother Earth, all living plants and animals of this land. The health of this land is a reflection of the health of the Native peoples because we are one. I'll say that again. The health of this land is a reflection of the health of the Native peoples because we are one. We ask that you all continue to remember that we are the first people, that most of our culture and history was lost during the time this land was stolen from our ancestors. It's important to understand the long-standing history that has brought you to reside on this land. Native Americans lived in the Central Valley for hundreds of years before the town of Stockton was built. When Europeans arrived, they found tribal groups living on this land. Colonialism is a current ongoing process, and we need to build our mindfulness. We must continually engage in self-reflection and must consistently work at being an ally through learning, acting in a decolonial manner, and sustaining relationships with Indigenous peoples. Here are some simple ways that you can begin the ongoing and continual process of acting in solidarity with Indigenous people. Learn. Learn about oppression and privilege, about the history of colonization, about Indigenous peoples and cultures, about the land you live on. Build relationships. Build relationships is a very important aspect of standing in solidarity. Act. Be accountable towards Indigenous people and communities by affirming the importance of what we are saying, aligning oneself with the struggle and speaking up when something problematic is said. Lastly, acknowledging that this land belongs to the Indigenous peoples is one way to honor our ancestors that came before us. With that, we thank you for inviting us to acknowledge this land, and we send blessings to Mr. Phillips, his staff, students, parents, and communities of the Flora Mata community. Cool, thank you.
Thank you very much. And all you very important people, the Mata family today ranks #1. Everybody, please acknowledge the Mata family. We have in our presence the Stockton PD, Chief Barry and his beautiful staff. Also, Mr. Breakfield's here, and we must acknowledge him. This could be his last project. And also, we have Mr. Brian Biederman, our interim superintendent. Mr. Henry Phillips at this time will acknowledge our ribbon cutter.
At this time, could Trustee Vargas, the Mata family, Trustee Garcia, and Superintendent Biederman come up?
There is no public comment, so we will not be reading any. Thank you.
Be so kind to do the honor of putting the ribbon. I don't feel like it's my honor. I feel like someone from the family should do it.
Okay, so if you could all proceed inside and take a seat, and please remember there was social distancing. Thank you. Good morning. I'm Henry Phillips, principal of Flora Archimata Elementary School. Welcome, Mata community, students, parents, neighbors, faculty, staff, and trustees. I especially want to welcome the Mata family and say thank you for allowing us to be a part of Flora Archimata's legacy. At this time, I'd also like to thank Teeter Architects, C.T. Brayton General Contractors, AMS, American Modular Systems, General Contractors, AOR, Chuck Scolino, I'm sorry, Chilino, all the men and women that are in the construction trades that contributed to building this beautiful facility. Listen. It is an honor to serve as the first principal of what I'm convinced is going to be a great learning institution. Our board of trustees has given us an excellent start by naming this site after an exemplary educator. Proverbs 22:1 says, "A good name is to be chosen rather than great riches." I'm saying this because the first school that I was the principal of was named William Henry Harrison, and his claim to fame was having the shortest presidency, only 32 days. He was the 9th president, and then the next school that I was principal of, John Tyler, who was the 10th president. Well, I don't want to go into his after president curricular activities. Needless to say, it wasn't inspiring. But as I moved into the office at the time, my son said, "Is your next school going to be Polk?" And I'm like, "What? Where'd you get that from?" And they said, "Polk is the 11th president." So I went from 9th, 10th, And I thank Flora Arcamata for saving me from the curse of dead presidents. But I am grateful that I could look to her name and receive inspiration to do the job of educating Stockton scholars. Once again, welcome to the Mustang Nation, Flora Arcamata Elementary School. Thank you for coming this morning, and now I introduce you to Superintendent Brian Biederman.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips. When I came to visit the campus today, I was in awe. This is a $38.2 million project. Right? It's pretty impressive, right? $38 million for a project in something. But I want to give a quick thanks to Joseph, I see from our facilities team, and Steve Breakfield's around here somewhere. Woo! There he is as well. The gentleman that led the project. As impressive as the buildings are and the amount of money that went into constructing it, I think the most impressive piece is the name of the building, the legacy of the name and the person that Flora was. I'm going to read a real quick quote that Flora stated when she was teaching in our system, is that, why is it that America would educate the minority and not give them the opportunity to use this education? Why is it that they need a college education to be dishwashers? And I think that is very applicable even today, 2020, right? So as much as, and Flora was, and I'm not going to get into the history because I know the people that are going to speak after me are going to do a very good job of that, but the first Filipino teacher in California advocating for social justice and change in our society, and that is still something that we are battling today in 2020. So I think it's very appropriate, the naming of this building, opening the school. And the strangest thing coming onto this campus today is that we're opening a building with no students in it, right? Because of COVID and where we're at with distance learning. It's a different vibe. We have adults in the room, and we're doing a great job of social distancing and making sure that we're safe, but there is yet to be a student on this campus. So I'm hoping that when we do open the doors for kids in the very near future, that Mr. Phillips, if we could do maybe a smaller version of this and have the kids celebration. I think that's very important. But I am just, I'm humbled to be here. I hope that in my tenure or in any adult that works in the system, their tenure, that we strive to have the legacy that Flora had for our community. I think that's a goal that everybody should have. I think it's very powerful, the legacy that we can leave. Mr. Phillips, we're very fortunate to have a brand new school. I've been in our system for 22 years. I've had a $90 million project at Edison, but this is a brand spanking new school that's got the new car smell. Kids have yet to touch it, so it's amazing. But I want to thank the dignitaries in the room, from our trustees that are in front of me and behind me. I really want to give a shout out to Mr. Delvo. In my work at Edison, he was fortunate to be a trustee of Area 1 at the time, and he did a lot of good work for me, and I appreciate him. But with that said, the legacy is not just of Flora. She has family members on the stage that work for our system. Her grandson works is a principal at HCA. His wife is the vice principal at Rio Calaveras. So I'm very fortunate and proud that the legacy continues. And I just want to end before I turn it over to Aaron that we have plenty of work to do, and Flora can set the stage, and work is not done. So as we continue to move our system forward, I just want to make sure that we look back on the foundation that Flora built for us to move forward. Okay, so thank you very much, and I appreciate everybody being here. Mr. Lange.
Thank you everybody for being here. On behalf of the Mata family, we definitely want to make sure that we thank, first of all, the Board of Trustees, Superintendent Biederman and his leadership team, Dr. Spester, our community relations team, Mr. Phillips and his leadership and admin team, Mr. Delvo and the Little Manila Foundation, and all the young adults that came to the board meeting and spoke on behalf of the community. And then also my wife, Patricia, who really got the ball rolling with this with honoring my grandmother and what it meant to her community as well. My grandma Flora was, she had a clear vision of what education can do for a person, and she believed in it deeply. She was passionate and she was dedicated to the teaching profession for many years. One of the stories that I know I share is when I was in my early 20s and I always needed a car for some reason. My grandmother would tell me, she's like, well, you can take my car, but you're going to need to drop me off at a school. And I remember looking at her and thinking to myself, why are you still teaching? And I would drive her to various elementary schools, and I do remember taking her out to Grant Elementary School. And I thought to myself, she's not even a sub. She's just there helping out in the classroom. I don't think she was getting paid. And she would do this regularly. And for me, I didn't, when I reflect back on it, I realized, again, how dedicated she was. And I was just a kid who was hoping to use her car, right? And during that time, what was interesting is she would actually still be teaching me. One of the two things that I always find funny that I've actually shared with my kids and was overly excited that I remember this, she would drive around, she'd say, hey, see that little blue reflection thing? There's a fire hydrant over there on the right. I had no idea. They looked at it, that's pretty freaking cool, right? There's that. And then also she taught me that when the light would turn green, you should count to 3 before you go. So that in case the car drove through. And we know a good teacher is somebody that teaches somebody, and then that person takes it and teaches somebody else. And like I said, when I reflect on it, I realized that I was teaching my own kids those same lessons when it came to driving. As a family, we really hope that every student, parent, educator, and community partner that walks through these doors is aware of Flora Arcamada's her journey as a minority woman and what she did during her time for her community. Her strong beliefs in the value of an education and her commitment, her true commitment to her students. And like I said, that commitment went beyond, her years of just working here into her retirement. And what we really do hope is that her drive, her spirit can be part of the fabric of the school, and hope that it's inspiration for all of the staff and the students and families that are part of the school. So thank you again to everybody who made this happen and took part of this.
Thank you very much, Aaron. And again, welcome to all of you. It's a pleasure to be here and to see all of you here celebrating this special day. This weekend, we lost RBG. And today we're celebrating FAM. And I understand that both of these women who were strong women were small in stature, but they sure wielded a big stick. Flora Mata was the only Filipino American that was attending UCLA. How many people can say that? My grandmother was the first white child born in the territory of Minnesota, but she didn't go to UCLA. And here she was in Stockton, teaching all these young people as a Filipino American. Understand that they moved back, her family moved back to Stockton because of little Manila. That was one thing that drew her father here. She was born in Honolulu, but the family came back to Stockton simply because of little Manila. When we think about the things that these ladies have done, unreal. And we need to pass this on. Like Aaron said, he passes it on to his children. We all need to do that. We drove by here the other day and my grandson said, "Grandma, where's the school?" Because all three of them, my grandchildren, had graduated from the Quail Lake School here. And it cost me a bunch. But they couldn't believe this new school was here. Again, thank you all for being here. Henry, you're in a good spot. And Ms. Vargas.
Good morning, everyone. I prepared some remarks. My name is Candelaria Vargas, and I have the privilege of serving our students as SUSD board member right here in Area 7, so welcome to Area 7. I'm honored and humbled to take part in this very historic moment. Thank you to the Mata family for living the legacy of Miss Laura Arca Mata, her dedication to quality education for all students, and for taking a very active role in the process of naming this school. Thank you to the community members who turned out and showed an exemplary act of relentless civic engagement over several years to honor not only Ms. Mata and her dedication to our students, her perseverance to teach in our community, but to honor our Filipino community and recognize the importance of their contributions to the diverse fabric of our community. I would be remiss if I didn't take a moment to recognize two great losses we experienced this Friday. Justice Bader Ginsburg and our very own Trey, a young person always on the move, creating business, and a leader amongst his peers in sport. Justice Bader Ginsburg was a warrior and great defender of gender equality. We have a long way to go still in correcting the injustices of sexism, racism, classism, and all the isms in our community. But I'm going to take today's victory and let it fuel me to persist in demanding what is right for our community and amplifying the voices of our constituents, no matter how many times we are denied, ignored, or even how long it takes. In the words of the great Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. I hope this school stands as a beacon of hope to all, especially our young people. That persistence is key in the face of injustice, that they too can make a difference, even as individuals, but as a collective, they are unstoppable. Long live the spirit of Ms. Laura Arca Mata. And now it is my privilege to introduce my colleague and friend, Trustee Luntao. I didn't use all of my time because I wanted to make sure that that little extra time went to him, because this is a very special and personal moment for him as well.
Thank you, Trustee Vargas. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to start with a little bit of a Tagalog lesson, if that's okay with you. So will you all join me in this? I'm going to teach you two words. I'll say them first, and then you will repeat them with me, please. Maganda. Umaga. Magandang umaga. Good morning, or in Tagalog, literally beautiful morning to all of you. And thank you for joining us in this socially distanced ribbon cutting on this beautiful day in a terrible year. And I thank you for celebrating with us safely this incredible investment in our young people and in our community. My name is Lange Luntao. As Trustee Vargas said, I have the great honor of serving on the school board for as a trustee for Area 4, which is an enrollment area that overlaps with this school. I'm going to be brief because the person who is speaking after me, one of my mentors, Dillon Dalvo, has been waiting about as many years as I've been alive for one of these moments. And so we're going to give him all the time he needs. And when I look out at this beautiful school and you all sitting here, all I can think about is the quote, "They tried to bury us, but they didn't know we were seeds." Like Ms. Mata's family, all of whom I see here, which is so amazing,
I also come from a long line of Stockton Unified Filipina and Filipino educators. I actually think I'd love to have a competition around how many of our family members have worked for Stockton Unified. We may have a good running. And when I think about my dad and my Aunt Lila, my mom as an honorary Filipina, and my Lola and Lolo and aunts and uncles' experience in this community, I think about the resiliency and the passion in their stories, the service that they contributed to our young people. But also I think about the erasure that they experienced in this community and in this district. The opening of Mata Elementary School is one step towards righting these wrongs for our young people and for future generations. Growing up like many Filipina and Filipino young people in this city, I often wondered, why is it that in a city that had until the 1930s the largest population of Filipinos outside of the Philippines, that so few of us know our history? Why do so few of our families speak Tagalog or Visayan or other Filipino dialects? Why is it that despite the fact that there are thousands of us that still live in this city, that there was not one school named after a Filipina or Filipino leader? And in part because I didn't see myself represented in my city and my history, I believed it when others told me that Stockton was less, that to succeed I needed to leave. This is because of a long history of erasure, of downplaying difference rather than celebrating it. This comes from the same sort of thinking that in the past tried to keep people like Ms. Mata from teaching, that tried to deprive young people of their given language skills, that obscured or ignored our history. We now know better. We know that when you bring culturally relevant, community-linked instruction, students are more engaged. When students see themselves represented in their teachers and their counselors and their principals and their other classified and certificated staff, they see more purpose in their learning and they are more engaged. And the naming of this school is a part of righting that wrong. It is part of signaling to our young people and to our communities, you matter. All of your stories matter. There is a reason that you and your families are here. There is a deep history to why you are here. And you are the inheritors of great sacrifice that has been invested to make sure that you can succeed. You should hold your head up proudly because you come from a community that once gave birth or once gave rise to people like Ms. Mata. They tried to bury us, but they didn't know we were seeds. Ms. Mata might not have known that inspired by her trailblazing, another Filipina would one day literally write the book on Little Manila and on this community. And when Mata School opens, one of the books in the library will be written by Dr. Don Mobulano Mabalan, who, along with Dillon, co-founded Little Manila. And so I'm going to end with one of her quotes because I think it really illustrates to me why this matters. Why it matters that the young people at Mata will never question, at Mata Elementary School, will never question if their history matters. And in one of her interviews, Dr. Mabalan wrote, "My grandparents were farm workers. My dad was a farmer. He knew Larry Gitleon. And I didn't even know who Larry Gitleon was until I went to college." Now I'm going to cry. Now I'm crying. You know, what a tragedy. I knew who Cesar Chavez was. We had the Cesar Chavez library. But you know, I think it's such a tragedy that so many young Filipino Americans grew up without knowing what a central, pivotal role that we played in American history. We've given to one of the major social movements that changed this nation, that our elderly uncles and fathers and grandfathers sacrificed so much so that workers today can have a living wage and better working conditions. And if we knew that, that could be so inspiring for all of us to think of the different things that we could do in our lives, no matter how humble or ordinary or poor we are. If Ms. Mata could do it, could serve young people after facing discrimination, overcoming doubt, all of us can do it. She proves, and her story proves, that all of our students deserve equal access to education. And in celebrating the opening of this school today, we're taking one step forward in actually ensuring that our kids achieve that. Thank you, salamat, and please now join me in welcoming my kuya, maybe he's my manong, Mr. Dillon Dalvo.
Thank you, Lange, for the many different ways you called me old today. Guys, one thing to be nervous, it's another thing to be nervous with a mask on. I was just sitting back there, trying not to faint. Anyway, good morning, everyone. It is a true honor to be able to speak today, representing everyone at Little Manila Rising, and specifically our students who advocated for this school to be named after former Little Manila Historic Site resident Flora Arca Mata. I would be remiss to not mention the Association of Filipino Americans in Education, whom Ms. Mata was a founding member of, and the Filipino American National Historic Society, which she was also a member of. If it wasn't for COVID, you know there would be a lot of Filipinos in this room today and a lot of food. So I've got one story and 2 quotes. Here's a story. In the 2000s, Little Manila actually was trying to get a school named after Flora Arca near our historic site, and that school board decided against them. And I and our co-founder, our other co-founder, Dr. Balon, were at that board meeting. Wilhelmina Henry, the first Black teacher in SUSD, who did get a different school site named after her, came up to us. She knew about our affiliations with the Filipino community and asked us, when will Flora get a school named after her? And so Don and I looked at each other and were like, oh man, we gotta get this done. And so years later, it warmed my heart when we went to the naming committee this year. Ms. Henry sent her daughter to speak on her behalf for this school to be named after Flora Arca Mata. It made me think about the courage, intelligence, patience, and grace that it took for the only 2 teachers of color in SUSD to navigate in an all-white workforce and not only survive, but thrive. I don't know about you, but it's hard to enter all-white spaces in 2020. They were doing this in 1948, before civil rights. They had to have each other's backs. So much so that Ms. Henry, at the age of 100, still had Ms. Mata's back. What a beautiful story of brown and Black allyship that lasted a lifetime. And I think it is something that we need to remember and honor as we move forward as a community in the most diverse city in America and in the challenges of racial and social justice that we face together today. And so that brings me to the first quote of Ms. Mata. She said in 1975 in an interview with the Stockton Record, "They seem to think that there would be less prejudice with little ones than with older students." And so she was placed to teach kindergarten in South Stock. Think about it. The kindergartners were the least racist, only because they were the youngest and had the least amount of time to be taught to be racist. I feel that this speaks to the power of education, the sacredness of this school that we are dedicating today, and the hope of our youth to push humanity forward. And that if racism is taught, we can and must teach how to defeat it as well. May the teachers and staff of this school propel our children to push humanity forward, and that this school be a beacon of hope for us all. Second quote. I'm actually going to talk about a quote that Superintendent Biederman has already said, but let me give you some context. In the 1940s, a UCLA dean who was trying to help Ms. Mata find a job told her to find a teaching job in Hawaii, where she would be much more easily accepted as a teacher. And so in the 1940s, Hawaii was not a state yet. And so when Mata talks about this, the dean is telling her that although she received a degree in America, she probably wouldn't find a job as a teacher in America. And it's to this Ms. Mata asked, Why is it that America would educate the minority and not give them an opportunity to use this education? Why is it that they need a college education to be dishwashers? And understand that there were plenty of people of color with college degrees at the time that could only find work as dishwashers. That was a real thing. So as we stand in this new SUSG space that is much different than the SUSG Ms. Mata was a part of, I think the lesson we can take away from this is that it isn't enough to get an education, but it's about the courage to use that education to bring about progress and change the world for the better. You still have a ways to go. Flora Arcamata was a trailblazer. More importantly, she was a teacher. Even now in 2020, she led a life that all of us can still learn from. She's still teaching us. May the students who inhabit this space gain memories, friendships, and skills that will last a lifetime. May they find inspiration in this school's namesake, Flora Arca Mata Elementary School, so that they can move together in allyship and take their education and courageously use it to push humanity forward towards social and racial justice, just like Flora did. I want to thank the SUSG Board of Trustees for naming the school after Flora Arcamata. We're not 100% sure, but it could be the first school named after a Filipino woman in America. I want to thank our students and community who advocated for the naming of the school. I dream of the day when our students are older and they point to the beautiful stone sign and tell their children, I helped to make that happen. I want to thank Little Manila's co-founder and dear friend, the late Dr. Don Bukulano Mabalo, whose research and passion kept these stories alive. We did it, Don! Along with the work of Fred and Dorothy Cordova and Joan May Cordova of the Filipino American National Historical Society, and Virginia Navarro for continuing the work of the Association of Filipino Americans in Education. I want to thank the Mata family who allowed us to claim their mom, Auntie Lola, as our own. I hope you don't mind, but we will always claim her. And lastly, I want to thank Flora Arca Mata for living a beautiful and exemplary life. She represents a whole generation of Filipinos whose story has been marginalized and almost forgotten. She also represents something extremely prevalent in all Filipino families, yet not memorialized enough or at all in this country. A strong and powerful Filipino woman, a Pinay. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Juanita Valenzuela, and I'm the vice principal here at Flora Arcamata School. I feel absolutely honored to have the opportunity to help lead this beautiful school. Watching it from the ground up, from a dirt field to what it is today, absolutely beautiful. I cannot wait until we have the students playing out on that beautiful playground and sitting in these classrooms. It is my goal that each and every student here at Flora Arcamata succeed. I hope to offer our students the best possible opportunities to become confident, thoughtful young people who are prepared for any future challenges. With that, I hope to continue to spread the importance of education to our Stockton Unified School District students, just as Flora Arcamata did. What a fantastic woman and role model for everybody. Thank you. I do have an announcement. Due to COVID, we will not be able to offer tours today. Each guest will receive a digital tour via email, and it will also be posted on the Flora Arcamata School website. I would now like to invite Dr. Sloan up for a few words.
Thank you very much, everyone, for taking part in this beautiful celebratory opening and recognition and respect for our Armada and their family. I've been asked to make sure that we have a safe and social distance process of exiting the building in celebration of this great opening. So thank you for staying in your place, and then as you dismiss, thank you for exiting the building to the back door. So thank you again for taking place in this wonderful celebration, and thank you for the Mata family for providing a legacy for students for many years, decades, and centuries to come, a safe and empowering place to learn and grow. So thank you, those of you in the seventh row, the back row, if you could please rise and exit to the back. Thank you very much for attending and being here. We appreciate it. Oh, thank you.
We have to adjourn this meeting. Thank you for everybody for being here, and this meeting is adjourned.